to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
You know what? What can one of these quarterbacks or wide receivers do for me this year to make a wager? It's got to be the running conditions there for Jaden Daniels.
In regards to Jaden Daniels, you know I was on him in regards to the Heisman Trophy. I actually think he's going to do it on the ground, through the air. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, playing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where he wants to spread it and throw it. I think he's going to put up dynamic numbers.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The Early Line, only on Sports.
And welcome in a very happy Friday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we get ready for week 4 of the college football season here. Got a couple of great matchups in store tonight. We'll go over whether or not Nebraska is back. And there seems to be an awful lot of people thinking that Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers have figured it out. They've got their quarterback. They've got their coach. They are rolling right now in one of the 4 matchups featuring a top 25 team against another top 25 team this week in college football. Gotta love it now that conference play begins. The non-conference part of the schedule has come and gone. Now we've got the meat and potatoes here of the schedules, and we've got a lot of great games coming up, including some games we're not used to seeing. One of those being tonight. Why are we not used to seeing it? Well, it's not every day that Stanford gets on an airplane and flies all the way across the country to Syracuse in order to open up their ACC battle. That's right, I said it, the ACC battle, as the Syracuse Orangemen now up to 9.5-point favorites here, taking on the Stanford Cardinals. This is going to be interesting watching this unfold this season. We had all said it once we learned of Cal, who also will be flying across the country to Tallahassee to take on Florida State this week. And Stanford now. We've got all of these West Coast teams, including, by the way, USC is now on the road taking on Michigan. And if people in Michigan in the Big House tomorrow look confused, it's because, yes, the last time SC actually played Michigan in Michigan was back in the 1950s. So there is going to be a lot of newness to a lot of these games coming up that are going to mean a lot because they're now conference games. But the traveling is going to be the most interesting part, and that's what I've been looking forward to seeing. Will it matter? Will the time travel matter to Stanford tonight? Will the time travel matter to Cal this weekend? When you're not used to playing in Central and Eastern time zones, what is USC going to do when they have to continue to travel all the way east? So there's a lot of unanswered questions that we are looking forward to getting answered here, and it starts tonight with that Stanford and Syracuse game. We are also getting ready for a whole lot of fun in Major League Baseball, as we've got plenty of games here tonight that we're going to go over. We've already seen a bunch of teams punch their tickets, including the Yankees getting it done the other day, as well as the Milwaukee Brewers as they continue to roll. The Dodgers also continued their streak. However, and we'll get to Ohtani, which was just maybe the most unbelievable single game feat that we have ever seen. The Dodgers are not sitting and just happy that they made the playoffs. Keep in mind, they're a half a game back of the Philadelphia Phillies for that number one seed in the National League, which matters. Every edge that you can possibly get in Major League Baseball matters in the postseason. And since we do have the ability to be able to get the buys and to be able to line up your staff, as you can see, it matters. Dodgers still your favorite here to win the National League. However, boy, they would like to have that number one seed and rip it out of the grasp of the Philadelphia Phillies. So they're going to be taking on the Colorado Rockies tonight after just an unbelievable game last night by Ohtani and the Miami against Miami there. They're still talking about it in Miami. In fact, it's all that I heard on the radio today, as well as on local broadcasts. It was a epic night in Miami last night, with Ohtani becoming the first 50-50 player in the history of the game. He just created his own category, and he did it by going 6 for 6 with 3 home runs. Just absolutely unbelievable what we witnessed. Haley's Comet, folks. I said it with Tiger Woods. I'll say it with Ohtani. These are the kinds of generational players that come around once in a lifetime. Enjoy it while we still can, because this is history being made. And the fun part now is at least we get to watch him play in the postseason, unlike his former teammate, Mike Trout. But while some teams have already punched their tickets, there are other teams just limping, and I mean limping to the finish here. How about the American League? Will somebody please tell the Orioles you cannot go and lose 80% of your games down the stretch and think that you're going to do anything in the postseason? And the problem with the Orioles is that they've got to take on the team that has been playing over the last month or so, maybe the best baseball in all of major leagues, the Detroit Tigers, who are also battling the Minnesota Twins for that final spot, wild card spot in the playoffs. That game coming up here over the next hour, 7:05 will be your first pitch in that one. But my goodness, I mean, the Orioles, they just can't seem to get it done. The pitching, the injuries, not good. Now, while the Orioles still sit right at the top there, at top of the wild card standings, man, the Royals are not going away anytime soon. The Minnesota Twins, demoralized by the Guardians all week long, having the opportunity to be able to really control their own destiny, and instead they continued to lose game after game after game in walk-off fashion for the Guardians, as they could not hold a lead. And ultimately now they're in a battle just to make the postseason with the Detroit Tigers. And the Tigers just continue to play great baseball. Young Tariq Skubal is the leader here. He is having a great time, great season, Cy Young season. Boy, it would be really good to get the Detroit Tigers into the postseason just to see what could happen after a season in which we thought, all right, maybe 10 more wins than what they had a year ago. Can they get to 65 wins? That would be great. Nobody had them at 80 and 73 right now in the final week and a half of the season, but that is exactly what they've got going on. And now Corbin Burns on the mound for Baltimore here tonight. Listen, he has faced the Tigers already, limited them to 2 hits and 1 walk, 7 shutout innings. Saturday when the Orioles did win in Detroit. But my goodness, they need to put it together in a big way at Camden. 7.5 is that total. That's one we're going to keep an eye on as Corbin Burns. Say what you want, but he has been hit far too hard for me over the last month of the season to trust that kind of low total in this one tonight. So that is a game we're going to keep an eye on. We're also games that matter. We're going to be keeping an eye on the Phillies and the Mets. Does it get any bigger than this? Is anybody hotter right now than the New York Mets? They can actually lose their best player and still score double-digit runs in games and pretend as if he didn't matter. Peterson on the mound tonight at home at Citi Field for the Mets, taking on Sanchez for the Phillies, who's not somebody I would ever want to back on the road, but the Phillies are just playing as mediocre as possible, and they have done that all after the All-Star break, which is why instead of running away and locking up that automatic bye in the number 1 seed in the National League, they are now battling with the Dodgers here, just a half game up on them. That is a game we are certainly going to talk more about. We got much more going on here as Game Time Decisions on a Friday continues on the Grid.
You say this is a smash, I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Daboll has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Daboll to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you as we're chugging along in the month of September, the 20th already, and we are in the final stretch of the Major League Baseball regular season. Still much to be determined for postseason status, and of course, we get an extra team in each league this year in the postseason, which means there is some value in locking down the best record in both divisions here, which is really still up for grabs in the American League. The Yankees trying to solidify that. The Guardians are trying to chase them down. And in the National League, the Phillies, who should have run away with it, unfortunately, have not been playing their best baseball. And the Dodgers are on their heels as we welcome in our good friend George Kurtz here tonight. As I can't believe it here, Kurtz, almost 162-game season in the books. Plenty more still to be decided. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, in years past, just making the postseason, we probably could have counted on some of these teams packing it in and just waiting for, the postseason to start. But yeah, having that number one seed, having the bye, being able to set up your rotations, going up against some of these wild card teams, there is still a lot to be decided here over the next week or so. And it starts with the Phillies and the Mets here tonight getting ready to go. Because the Mets playing the best baseball of the season right now. And the Phillies, I don't even know how they didn't lock this number one seed up already with how ridiculous they were to start the season.
You think about the New York Mets, last 20 games, they're 16-4. For the first time in team history, they've scored double-digit runs in 3 straight games. And remember, at least the last 3 straight games, that's without Francisco Lindor, the MVP candidate, right? He's out with a back injury. I don't believe he's back tonight either here. So the Mets are a pretty good story here. And tonight, listen, it's Sanchez versus Peterson. I know Peterson hasn't been that great. And Peterson's done a great job, Joe, of pitching out of trouble. Because whenever you look up at the game, it's runners on first and second and 1 out. Whenever he's pitching.
Yep.
But he wiggles out of it game in and game out here. Sanchez is going for Philadelphia. You're getting even money with the Mets. I mean, it's kind of hard to pass that up. And also, 7.5 runs. I mean, that's your over-under here. And, it's used to the under, not the over here. I'm going to go with the Mets and the over.
I don't know how if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, is that really a train we want to get in front of right now, Kurtz? I don't think so. I can make the same argument for Detroit. Like, do I really want to step in front of the Detroit train right now? Young team. And I think having A.J. Hinch as the manager is huge at this point for such a young team, Kurtz, because they always say, right, in a 162-game season, teams kind of take on that persona of the manager, a guy that's been there, that's done this, really has these young guys believing. If you'd have told me Detroit a month ago would be 80-73 and an opportunity to make the postseason, I'd have laughed. But Baltimore's a train wreck, Kurtz. Why should we trust even Corbin Burns on the mound tonight?
You said the most important thing there. Baltimore, I mean, you talk about a train wreck, a dumpster fire. They're having all sorts of problems. I mean, listen, we don't know much about Tyler Holton, right? He's going to pitch he's the starting pitcher for Detroit tonight. And I'll be honest with you, no clue. And I don't know how the young Tigers, how they're going to play in what is now, I guess not a pennant race, but it's a race for a playoff spot. Right, so how are they going to handle that against in Baltimore? And Baltimore, by the way, we know they're going to make the playoffs, but they're still alive to win the American League East. I know they're 4 games behind the Yankees, but they do play the Yankees for 3 games next week. Plus, the Yankees are in Oakland, and anybody who's a Yankee fan knows the Yankees in Oakland. That's a house of horrors for the Yankees. They don't generally play all that well there, so they're not dead here. I wanted to bet Detroit tonight. I truly did. They're the hotter team, a team that's playing better, but Burns is a problem. He's pitched well. I wouldn't say he's pitched, number one starting pitcher great of late here. I kind of still like the Orioles tonight, but not enough to make any kind of just a small little wager on the O's.
6-1 in their last 7 road games, Detroit. And I think that's a big thing too, is to know that this young team is winning on the road. And it's kind of hard to believe that they are even in this spot, but they are certainly believing that they can get it done. Can you believe what the Guardians did to the Twins over this 4-game set? If you got to be sick to your stomach if you're the Twins, knowing that when you went into that series, Kurtz, you kind of controlled your own destiny. And then what did you do? Well, you watched the Guardians just walk off game after game after game. Now they got to go on the road, take on the Red Sox, who got, they got nothing going on, but would love to play spoiler at Fenway. Can you trust the Twins to bounce back here?
No, I don't trust the Red Sox either. All right, that's the problem. I don't trust either one of these teams. I admit it. Listen, if Minnesota would have been a more popular team, we'd be all over them for their collapse, right? Because they haven't played well over a month now. But instead, we're talking Baltimore instead, right? Because they're the I guess the team that we expected to go further or do more damage this year. But Minnesota's falling apart too. Now they've got injuries. I know Correa's back. Buxton's in the lineup. Buxton's out of the lineup. They have their own issues there. Boston. It seems like that last hurrah was Yankee Stadium last weekend, right? Then the whatever game they choked, that Judge hit the grand slam, that seemed to zap everything out of them. That was their last thing. The last hurrah, we lost, we're done, that sort of thing. I'm going to go with the team that needs to win, and that's Minnesota. All right, but do I feel confident in this? No, I do not here. But I'll take I'll take the Twins, and I'm going to go the over as well.
Oh, going with the over as well. All right, so if you don't like those two teams, there's no way you can't trust the Braves, right? Oh, who are we kidding? Even in Miami, where history was made last night, Kurtz, which is great. They're still talking about it here in Miami, but there's no reason why they can't beat Atlanta and make their life miserable once again.
They shouldn't be beating anybody after the All-Star, after the trade deadline. They traded everybody away, but they've had an interesting second half here. Ozzie Albies is back for Atlanta tonight. He was activated off the IL, whatever that's worth here. I think I heard he's only going to bat right-handed. I don't know if that's still a thing, but that's strange. You're back off the IL, but you can't bat lefty. Oh, geez, you're not at full strength here. There's no way I'm betting the Braves at 2-1. All right, you want to put them in a parlay? Somewhat interesting, but I don't like that either. You don't know what you're going to get from the Braves game in and game out, right? They beat the Reds 2 out of 3 here. They came back and losing at the choking game 1 here. Must win for the Braves, though, because the Mets, that's a runaway train right now.
They ain't losing, and the Braves already find themselves on the outside looking in. A couple of more games of meaning tonight. We'll go over those next here on Game Time Decisions.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Thanks for stopping by. Joe Raineri alongside George Kurtz here as we're getting ready for the final stretch here of the Major League Baseball regular season. Still got plenty of games of value here tonight that we're going over. Let's talk about a couple of games on the little bit later slate. I'll start with the Royals. They're at home taking on the Giants here, Kurtz. 8.5 as a total in this one. I mean, you tell me, are the Royals, who seem firmly right there in the middle, that they're going to be holding on to that number 2 spot there, but what do you think here at home? Waka going up against Black here tonight.
Yeah, Giants played a little bit of spoiler this week, right? Took 2 out of 3 from
Mhm.
Baltimore. Almost had the sweep there, which I thought they would get with Logan Webb on the mound. Didn't quite happen. But as a Yankee fan, I'm glad they take the 2 out of 3 there. I think Kansas City wins the game. Their offense has been a little bit inconsistent without Pasquantino, who's out with a thumb injury, of course. I mean, it seems like if Witt, is not getting 3 hits and, Salvador Perez has got a big hit or 2, they don't score much here. I'm not laying, once again, I'm not laying minus 196. I'm not going to do it. I'm not laying 2-1 here. I am probably going to take even the run line plus 106. That's all I'm getting to win by 2 runs here. I don't like that all that much either, but that's where I'm leaning, the run line with the Royals.
Yeah, I'm with you here. And I also like Waka in the first 5 because nobody can seem to hit his changeup. So he has been a first 5 machine. I think he's going to be pretty hard to hit in this one, too. So early and often, I think, for Kansas City. What do we do with Zach Gallen on the road taking on Colin Ray of Milwaukee? Gallen has not been a guy that you want to back on the road. He is their ace, but not good on the road here. But Colin Ray is just, are we getting runs here? What do we do in this game?
Yeah, what you said about Gallen, and Gallen hasn't been that guy from last year either, right? The Cy Young guy from last year. He hasn't been average. He's been better than average, but not great. And on the road, he's been really average at best here. So that's where I'm getting what you just mentioned. I'm going to go the over in this game, 8.5. We're only laying minus 108 as of right now. I think we're going to get runs scored here. It's in Milwaukee. Hit his ballpark. Both these teams can mash. I believe the Arizona Diamondbacks are a top 3 run scoring team in all of baseball, right? And the Brewers have been much better offensive than I expect them to be this entire season, which is no longer a small sample size, obviously. So I like the over in this game more than any other play. As for the game itself, I probably lean towards the Brewers because you're going to give me plus money or plus 112. I think it's pretty much an even game here. I don't think Gallen gives the Diamondbacks all that much an edge here, but I am probably not going to bet it. Give me the over.
Yeah, I believe Lourdes Gurriel, too, back from the IL for Arizona. So they're getting a little healthier. I don't think Milwaukee at this point, they got the title. I don't know how far they're going to be willing to push that envelope. This is must-win territory for Arizona. I don't know that they're going to catch the Padres, who have a game here tonight against the White Sox, and you got to go, well, how in the world is this going to be a game? Well, you got Crochet on the mound for the White Sox, but he's only going to be good for 60 pitches. Can he get through 6 innings in 60? Probably not against this team, which means the bullpen comes in, which means all bets are off when it comes to lower scoring games. But that total, 7. What are we doing there?
They're begging you to take the over, right? And if you're going to take the over, I don't really have an issue with it, but I think you want to wait on the over. Because I think it's always going to be lower. I think it's going to be an in-game over. Because as you just said, Crochet will pitch fine. 6 innings, boy, if he goes 5, I'd be surprised. I'm thinking 4+, right? He goes to the 5th inning, gets an out or 2, and then he hits his pitch limit, and that's it. They're taking him out. Then you can mash on the bullpen there. So I think it's going to be an in-game over, because I think we'll get it down to 5.5 or something silly like that, and then we can smash it there. If you want to hit the pregame over, I don't mind that either, but then you're really banking on the Padres just nailing that bullpen, which I think they'll do, by the way. I think they'll kill the bullpen here. The White Sox have blown so many leads this year. And by the way, it's another opportunity. I'm certainly not taking the Padres at minus 275, and I don't love the run line either, but maybe the White Sox can score first, and then we get a much better number, and once again, in-game, we can hit that as well.
So we talked about the Dodgers still chasing that number 1 seed, that number 1 spot, catching the Phillies. But after a night like last night, they're in Colorado tonight, taking on the one guy that can pitch at Coors Field and Kyle Freeland. What do we do here? Do we trust the Dodgers to keep it rolling?
Do they celebrate a little bit too much yesterday with the Ohtani thing? Not like they were having champagne or anything there. They're tied with the Phillies, right? Same record here. So, yeah, I think they take the game seriously. I think they win. I don't think it's a blowout here. I think Philly will pitch decent, but the Dodgers win tonight.
So big number to lay there. Might be an over kind of night there as well. George, enjoy the games here, my man. Postseason will be here before we know it. Game Time Decisions will be back next year on the grid.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready for some postseason baseball here. Regular season winding down. Week 4 of the college football season started last night in just a whooping by South Alabama over App State. We've got 3 more games here tonight, which are going to be interesting, and all of that will lead us into Week 3, full slate Sunday in the NFL. Brady Cannon, no doubt, sharpening his number 2 pencil, ready to roll here in what is going to be a fantastic week. Now, Brady, you and I talked earlier in the week, and I said, I'm holding my nose. I'm doing it. I'm taking the Jets and Survivor. It's either going to be a fantastic weekend where I don't have to sweat anything else and hope for chaos, or I am going to probably, you will never see me again. So things worked out last night.
You'll be coming to Circa with me. You'll be coming to Circa with me for Empathy Weekend or whatever, a couple free nights. But the Jets got it done for you, man. And I was thinking about you, and that was a great pick. This team looks like it's starting to find their stride.
Well, thank God. You had a 49-year-old quarterback. You don't know what you're going to get week to week. But we do have a lot of very interesting dogs this week. Now, a lot has been made about how the dogs have been, the public is getting crushed. Public bets favorites. Favorites haven't been doing great. So does that continue through week 3 here, in your opinion? And what are some of these dogs you're looking at?
Well, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the favorites dominated the card. I just hope I'm on the right dogs, because you do expect that type of thing to flip. You know, it's been so underdog dominated for the first 2 weeks. Typically, the market corrects itself and things will start to shift. Now, will it happen this week? I'm not sure. You expect to see that shift, probably more gradual, if anything. I just hope I'm on the right dogs this week. A lot of home dogs this week. I did play the Denver Broncos. And, just before I came on here in the last half hour or so, I got the Broncos +7 earlier in the week. It dropped down to 6.5. But like I say, just in the last hour or so, I've seen some 6s pop up. So more love for the Denver Broncos. And this game worries me. I think if you can get the full 7, I feel pretty good about that bet. I think Sean Payton's crew will hang for at least the first half here. But then you get this offense that has had just so many 3-and-outs. Is that defense going to be able to sustain in the second half, in the humidity, whatever kind of weather they're having there? You're not too far away from Tampa yourself there, Joe. That could be tough. But my first reaction to this game, I made the number 4.5. I couldn't believe, are we giving the Buccaneers too much love here too early, off of a win over the Detroit Lions, making them a 6.5, 7-point favorite? And you look at Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, they've played a couple of pretty darn good defenses in Seattle and Pittsburgh, what looks to be a really good defense. And maybe Tampa Bay's a really good defense too. They just held the Lions in check. I don't know yet. I just felt that jumping out to a full 7-point favorite, and I wouldn't feel too bad about taking 6.5. It's continuing to come down now. I maybe have missed the best of it at this point. We'll see where it ends up. But the second half worries me for Denver. They can't continue to sputter on offense if they want to stay within the number in Tampa.
Yeah, I it was funny, too. You looked at the side. I went with the total in that game, and I went over, got it at, I think, 39.5. It's up to 41 now. Too many injuries on both defenses there not to think points are going to be scored. And I think the more points that are scored, that means that Denver's finally put it together there, Brady. So I'm with you there. I think Denver is the side. Wouldn't shock me if they win this thing outright. And I wouldn't shock me if this thing flies over the total here. But the story of the week, of course, was the benching of Bryce Young. And you got to go, well, what the hell took him so long? But fascinating storyline here with the Raiders now taking on the Panthers. You could have got him, 7, Brady? 6.5, 7. They make the announcement. I think it's hovering around, 5.5 now? Is it worth a play?
Well, what's interesting is early on Friday morning, we saw the steam roll in on the Las Vegas Raiders. The wise guys hammered the Raiders and brought this number back to 6. You're right. The look ahead was like 7.5. It was announced that Dalton was going to come in at quarterback. It dropped down to 5.5, dropped down to 5. And then early on Friday, the wise guys get involved and bounce it back up to 6. I mean, how wise are you? How wise a guy are you if you're laying 6 points with the Raiders? That just doesn't seem right in any world. Now, I understand they're taking on the Panthers. It was one of your guys at Wager Talk, our friend Ralph Michaels, put out a great graphic on Twitter. 0-2 teams that are on the road following up a home game. And this is like a 140-plus game sample size, are hitting at 65%. And that's exactly the situation that the Denver Broncos are in, an 0-2 team on the road following a home game, and the Carolina Panthers, an 0-2 team on the road following a home game. So I think the situation, it makes sense. Those are desperate teams, and sometimes it's good to get away from home where you're under the spotlight. You feel the pressure of your fans and your city wanting you to perform. Sometimes it's good, I think, to get away. The Raiders do not have a tremendous home field advantage at all. Unfortunately, as a Las Vegas resident, that's unfortunate. But the fact is, people come here to see their team, to hang out. They just have not had that overwhelming force at Allegiant Stadium. And we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. This has not been a great team. They were held to 10 points in week 1. They were held for 3.5 quarters against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore last week before that offense woke up. And I think this Panthers team will be inspired by the change at quarterback. I think this game has a great chance to go over the total. The Carolina Panthers are not getting good pressure on the quarterback. Minshew's been very good. And I think Andy Dalton, Adam Thielen, this running game, I think they will be in. I think you talk about Denver possibly winning outright. I think Carolina could win this game outright. I don't agree with this move to 6. I think this will probably be a game that features points, and it'll end up close in the end.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't shock. A lot of head fakes in the marketplace in the first 2 weeks in the NFL. I would expect more of that before kickoff on Sunday. And then, of course, I guess this next play, you either believe in what you're seeing with New Orleans, or you think the facade is about to get blown up here. You're thinking they're not nearly as good as they have appeared.
Yeah, I mean, it's an age-old thing in the NFL. When you get a team that puts multiple weeks together of 40-plus points, that typically comes crashing down. I don't know if it's going to happen here. They have an opponent that has been a sieve defensively in the Philadelphia Eagles. But you wonder, will that Saints party, slow down a little bit? And also about this line adjustment. If Saquon Barkley catches the ball or Sirianni decides to run it, there's a whole different storyline here, and this is probably not a 2.5 or 3 point game. The Eagles on the look ahead were 3-point favorites. I make them a 1 point favorite in this game. Now, they're going to have to hold up defensively. You're going to have to rely on the Saints coming back down to earth a little bit here. I think we probably get a pretty good contest. This might be another game that flies over the total. This is a tough one, and I could understand absolutely people taking the Saints laying 2.5. I personally took the Eagles getting 3. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you on the total, and I especially think early in that game, I would expect both offenses, the scripted portion of that, to be fun. So any sort of first half over would not shock me if we get into a shootout. But the Eagles got Vic Fangio. Now's the time to figure it out. Brady Cannon, always a pleasure, man. Exactly. We'll be back. Game Time Decisions.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri as we've got Major League Baseball closing out its regular season over the next week or so. Still much to be determined as we've got a lot of teams getting ready to battle here for the postseason. And that's kind of exactly what Major League Baseball was hoping for when they added the extra teams and the new format. And we have got meaningful games in the final week or so of the season. And, everyone loves urgency, including Joe Madden, who is no doubt ready to see some of these teams. And it makes for, at least usually with the end of the regular season, you had way more teams that were already out of it, had nothing to go for. This year, we got a lot going here, Joe. We got a lot of these teams here. Even if you're out of it, you might be playing a team that's very much in it. You can play spoiler. So Major League Baseball has got a little something going on, and you don't have to look much further than that Orioles-Tigers game coming up, where two teams with something to go head-to-head for here. What are you looking at in that one with Corbin Burnes on the mound?
I love this one here because I think the Tigers have the opportunity of pulling off the win. This team is playing so strong, and we look at Herter coming out here for them, and I'm expecting a lot out of him on the mound today. I think the Tigers have all the value at plus 140. Joe, like you said, this team is really playing for something, and they've been so strong versus right-handed pitchers. I can't trust Corbin Burnes coming out here for the Baltimore Orioles. He hasn't looked as strong as I would have expected him in the second half of the season. So I'm all over the Tigers in this one at plus 140. I can't say no. I actually thought this would have been a game that was a lot closer on those lines. And I was shocked because the Orioles, let's not joke ourselves, offensively, this team hasn't been able to get a lot of rhythm going. So I think the Tigers can pull this one off, giving them straight up on the money line.
I agree here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, they've only won 3 of their last 11 games, the Orioles. My goodness. They are melting quickly. And I love the fact, by the way, that you're looking at this game here and you're saying, I don't know how you rebound if you're the Twins, Joe. I really don't. Yeah, though it's bad enough you lost to the Guardians, but how you lost to the Guardians in multiple days, it's got to be Red Sox or not here, right?
It is. It absolutely is for me as well. I love a home dog, and you've got a short price here on the Boston Red Sox at minus 102. They've won 2 of their last 3 games at home. They've been strong, and you're right, the Twins have been struggling out there. Now, I do think this is one, though, that you look at a lower scoring game. Joe, I'm not seeing a lot of runs come in this. The under 8.5 coming in at minus 115. We're expecting some winds blowing in this one and some weather conditions. We should have some rain out there. I just can't trust the Twins. You look at the Twins, they've lost 6 of their last 7 on the road, and they're coming in as a favorite. I'm not going to lay juice on this team here. I'd rather take a chance on the Boston Red Sox here at home at minus 102. I think it's a really solid way to go in this game.
I love the way you're looking at that there. Yeah, keep an eye on the weather there at Fenway. Listen, there are some trains I don't want to get in front of, Joe, and the Mets is one of those trains. You got to be absolutely crazy, even against the Phillies at Citi Field. What are you looking at in this one?
Joe, when I first saw this line, I checked it like 20 times. I was like, how are we getting such a good price here on the Mets versus the Phillies? Peterson coming out here for the Mets. He's been strong. 20th start here, 9-2 on the season. He's 4-1 in those home starts with a 2.82 ERA. We can trust him here at home, and we've learned we can trust this Mets lineup here versus the Phillies and Sanchez getting the start. Sanchez has not been strong on the road. That road record, he's 3-6, and that ERA is over 5. It's a 5.13. I do think the Mets at this price is the only way I can look in this game, but I do think Sanchez can come out strong to start as well. The Nerfy in this one coming in at minus 138, so you are laying juice, but I think it's worth a look at that Nerfy. But the Mets, come on, minus 106. They've won Peterson's last 6 starts as well. I just can't look any other way, Joe.
I'm with you here, and it's kind of hard. You have to look at. You just got to tip your cap to what the Mets have done here down the stretch. What 16-4, Joe? You can't get in front of that at that price. You almost have to pay it here. What are we doing with the Mariners? Are you? I mean, they're not dead, but really, are they alive here, Joe? Are we at all?
Sort of,
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of. You know, this team really needs to get this win tonight. And versus Texas Rangers and DeGrom coming out here, they have the ability to, but George Kirby is going to has to play his A game. I don't know if he can stay in this game long enough, Joe. That outs is 17.5. I did ride it to the under, but I think we've got a competitive game here. We've got a total of 7 between these two, and any mistakes, this one's going to go over that total. With George Kirby, I just think this lineup, the Texas Rangers just saw him last week. I think they'll have the upper hand out of him, and he's going to have a short day. And we know the Seattle Mariners, I think the Texas Rangers will be able to get to the bullpen. I think this is really tight on the number. We could get the push at 7-4-3 style game, but I think it's better to take this one over than under. I see more like 8 or 9 runs coming in this one. So I'm going to take it to the over 7 in this one. I just look here at that bullpen too of Texas. That bullpen has a 4.69 ERA. So I can't to limit even the Seattle Mariners offense here that needs this win.
Kind of crazy. We've got the Royals need to keep winning too at home against the Giants. You buying the Royals tonight?
Heck yeah. This is one of the best offenses at home, Joe. You look here at Mason Black coming out for the San Francisco Giants. We can't trust him. That ERA is over 7, and the Royals at home so phenomenally strong. I'm ulting their team total over 5.5 runs to get plus money in this one. And then I'm going to look at Bobby Witt Jr. You can look at Bobby Witt Jr. For the home run. Plus 430. You can also look at the Royals just over the 4.5 at minus 120. The alt does give you plus money, though. I think they get 6 runs in this game tonight, Joe.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They have been great at home. All right, don't go anywhere. A couple more games still to get to here with Joe Madden as Game Time Decisions continues.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as Joe Madden stepping back in. A couple of more games on the board here tonight, Joe, that you are going to be looking at in Major League Baseball. I can't believe we're already at the point where 162 games and we're almost done, Joe, which is just absolutely crazy. So let's talk about some of these other teams like the Astros, who are still trying to hold off those Mariners there. What are we going to do with them tonight?
Yeah, the Astros can't let any game slip, Joe, and they need this win. I think they should be able to get those runs on the board here. We look at Tyler Anderson coming out for the LA Angels, and while he's been strong on the road, I still don't trust him. Overall, he has an ERA of 3.60. I think he struggles in this one here versus Houston Astros lineup. This is such a strong lineup and a lineup that is able to get those runs on the board. I'm going to fade here Tyler Anderson for under on his outs. You can get him under 16 and a half outs. That's coming in at minus 115. He really hasn't been able to go over this number in a lot of his starts. The last three, he hasn't cleared it. And then I'm going to look at the Houston Astros, and I'm going to look at that team total. I love their team total over the 4.5 tonight. It's at minus 122. But what I love even more is alting this number. I'm always looking for that plus money. I do think the Houston Astros can get 6 runs. So over 5.5 runs here coming in for them at plus 142. This team has been so strong hitting off of lefties, and that's what they've got here with Tyler Anderson. I expect them to have a big night and really be strong offensively in this matchup, Joe.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, of course, the big question in the late game is what are we going to get from the Dodgers? They were in Miami last night, epic, and I mean epic, historic game by Ohtani. Now they're home taking on the pesky Rockies, who usually win at Coors. They don't generally win on the road, but it's such a unique spot. How are you looking at it here tonight?
Well, I don't think the Dodgers can have a complete letdown after what we saw last night with Ohtani and this team just completely dominating out there, Joe. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I love looking at a matchup that involves the Dodgers against a pitcher like Kyle Freeland to come out strong in that first inning. Kyle Freeland, we know his struggles on this season, and I don't think he's going to be able to stop the Dodgers in this matchup. So I'm going to look at that first inning. The yes runs in the first inning coming in at minus 115, and then the over 1.5 in the first inning coming in at plus 235. I'm expecting those runs to come hard and fast in this game. And when we look at Kyle Freeland, I would expect him to stay under on his strikeouts as well. That number coming in at 3.5 at minus 113. I don't think he's staying long enough in this game, Joe, and he's not a big strikeout pitcher to start with. So total fade here of Kyle Freeland, and I'm looking at the Dodgers to get those runs nice and early in this one.
He's such a strange dude. Like, he pitches better at Coors than he does on the road. It's usually the other way around with every other pitcher in the world, but somehow Freeland loves pitching at Coors. The problem is they're in Ches Ravine here. That was epic last night, Joe. But do the Dodgers take the number 1 seed? Can they catch Philadelphia, you think, when it's all said and done? Are they getting the bye after all?
I would think so, Joe. I really do think this team can catch Philadelphia here and be able to get it. You look at them, they're sitting 91 and 62. They know what is in stake. And I think they make the huge push. You know, these teams sitting right in that same basic spot. That home record for Philly so strong, 52 and 26. I would love to see the Dodgers be able to pull it out, and I think they can, Joe.
It's going to be a very interesting finish here over the last week. And the Yankees can't seem to win in Oakland, but I don't think either of us trust Baltimore, do we? I mean, Baltimore, Joe, they're going to be limping into the postseason at best, and I just don't know if there's anything they can do about it. It is not good right now with the Orioles.
Yeah, they're absolutely struggling offensively out there, and I don't understand where this regression came from for this team since the All-Star break. You know, they were so phenomenally hot, and it just seems they just can't get those runs on the board. So I don't think they'll catch the Yankees here. They're sitting 85 and 68. Well, the Yankees are 69 and 64, or sorry, 89 and 64. I think the Yankees have sealed this, Joe. It would take a miracle for the Baltimore Orioles to be able to do it.
They ain't getting any pitching back. They got to go with what they got here. But great game tonight against Detroit. That one is getting ready to come up here. Joe, thank you so very much. Best of luck with the plays. Enjoy the games. Is Game Time Decision back for another hour next on the Grid.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over/under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in Game Time Decisions on this Friday now, September the 20th. Certainly appreciate you stopping by. I'm Joe Raineri, getting ready for what is going to be another epic weekend in the world of sports as we wind down Major League Baseball's regular season. Still much to be determined as the postseason will be here before we know it. The one thing we know for sure is that Shohei Ohtani will be playing in October as the Dodgers, on the back of a just unbelievable effort last night, Miami, historic night where he became the only member and created his own club, the 50-50 club last night, Miami, as he went 6 for 6 with 3 home runs, couple of stolen bases, 10 RBIs. The guy was out of his mind. Now they're home tonight taking on the Colorado Rockies. That's going to be your late game here tonight. But it's just good to have one of the all-time and what will be considered one of the all-time greatest Major League Baseball players in a generation, certainly, that we will actually see him in postseason baseball, something that has eluded his former teammate, Mike Trout, forever. And it's nice to see that the move to the Dodgers will get to enjoy, the rest of the world will get to enjoy him on the postseason stage. So get ready for that. Plenty of Major League Baseball coming up here tonight. We also kicked off the NFL Week 3 yesterday and last night with the New York Jets getting it done 24-3. And quite honestly, that was a game that was really never in doubt with the Jets. And as a Jet fan, I can tell you, I wasn't really sure how to act, respond. I really didn't enjoy it because I kept waiting for the wheels to fall off, as Jet fans often do. We've been down this road before, but that was the first time on a short week that we actually got to see what the vision was of this front office and this group here when they went out and traded for Aaron Rodgers. And boy, oh boy, that looked pretty good. So the opportunity for the Jets now to get a little extra rest and then take on the Broncos, I believe, next game. And with Miami no longer having Tua available, a lot of question marks with Miami. I think we can all agree that New England, even if you put Drake May in, is going to be, well, he's going to be running for his life, much like he did in that game yesterday, and Jacoby Brissett. I think New England rebuilding. That leaves the Bills and the Jets here, folks. Minus 125 for the Bills, plus 175 for the Jets. They don't play, I think, until the middle of October on a Monday night game, and that will be the first opportunity for us to take a look at both of those teams. As you can see there, the Jets do have the Broncos coming up here. I think this is going to be, the schedule lines up for the Jets to have a much easier path than I think the Buffalo Bills, whose game's coming up, including a big one on Monday night here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills' schedule is a little bit tougher down the stretch than what the Jets have. But ultimately, it in all likelihood is going to come down to what these two teams do against one another. And we're about 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks away from getting our first glimpse at those two. But a lot to be decided here in week 3 of the NFL season, including, are some of these 2-0 teams for real? Are the New Orleans Saints for real at 2-0, dropping 40-some-odd points a game on teams here? Now, I think we can all agree that we can throw out the Carolina effort in game 1. But what they did on the road in Dallas to that defense was nothing short of impressive. Now they're going to be back home taking on a Philadelphia Eagles team on a short week, licking their wounds a little bit from that horrific loss at home to the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins. It should not have been a loss, but now they've got to regroup and go and take on a much better offense than what they had against Atlanta. And we're going to find out, is New Orleans for real? I have no idea of New Orleans defense because they really have never had to play defense. When your offense is dropping 40 points a game, your defense can kind of pin its ears back and just go after opposing quarterbacks, which is kind of what they have done the last couple of games. We're going to see whether or not New Orleans is for real. We're also going to see if this Eagles defense, that on paper should be one of the best in the NFL, we are going to see if Vic Fangio is as good as we all think he is, and whether or not that was just a blip on the radar and all is well with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll learn that with that defense against this offense on Sunday. That, to me, is going to be one of the more entertaining games that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And a game in which I have no idea what to expect. And I can't believe we're saying that at this point in the season. But can you tell me what we're going to get from Baltimore and Dallas? Because I have no idea. Two teams that are absolutely baffling to me at this point. Again, Dallas at home, getting lit up for more than 40 points. That is just unbelievable. And Dallas is usually a team that we all know does really well early in the season. And then right after the Thanksgiving games is where the warts start to show up, and that's where Dallas begins to throw up all over themselves. But Baltimore has never started 0-3 with Harbaugh. And they know if you start 0-3, then your season is pretty much over. Statistically, very difficult to be able to bounce back, especially if you're the Ravens and looking at that schedule coming up for them. You cannot afford to go 0-3 to the season. Now, listen, we all say, well, it's so far, there's a lot of football left, and I get it. But you, if you are the Ravens, You cannot. You have to win this game. And I don't say that in a lot of week 3 spots, but if you have aspirations of making the postseason and making another run, mind you, this was one of the favorites preseason, Baltimore, to win the AFC and, of course, maybe just be able to get over the hump against Kansas City this time. But not if you start 0-3. So this is a must-win game for Lamar and Baltimore as far as I'm concerned. And I think we can also say the Cincinnati Bengals are in a very similar spot as the Baltimore Ravens, in which you cannot lose this game against Washington at home on Monday night and start 0-3. 7.5 is that number. The good news is taking on Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback, and something tells me that Cincinnati, like we watched the Jets finally put it together in that game against New England last night. I do think Joe Burrow, who played well enough in that game against Kansas City to get the W, but unfortunately, nobody knew the refs were wearing Kansas City gear underneath there. But more than enough offense, including T. Higgins now. It was just reported in all likelihood is planning on suiting up and going. So we'll have Chase, we'll have Burrow, we'll have Higgins, and I think we're going to have a major blowout on Monday night for Cincinnati. But that's where we're at in a week 3. We've got must-win teams already in week 3. And again, I don't say that lightly because there is a lot of football left, but statistically, history tells us, man, is that a mountain you do not want to climb here this year if you're Cincinnati or Baltimore. But of course, having to win and actually winning are two totally different animals here. And we got a few other games also on this card that we are going to learn a little something about these teams, except we'll learn nothing about the Rams and 49ers, given the fact that neither team is going to have any players available that actually move the needle to them here as the list of injuries for both those teams. You can build a fantasy all-star team with the names on that list. We'll talk more about that when Game Time Decisions continues.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over/under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we are getting ready for also week 4 of the college football season. We got a little appetizer last night, which turned out to be not very good, especially if you were on Appalachian State there. That was a mauling by South Alabama, but it did kick off what is going to be an interesting week 4. Adam Kaufman in the house stepping in. He is locked, loaded, ready to go for week 4 in college football. And Adam, I'm very interested in a couple of these games this week because the non-conference stuff now out of the way. We got conference games, the meat and potatoes here of this schedule. But my goodness, it just feels so weird going, wait a minute, Stanford flew all the way across to Syracuse to play a conference game? Yes, they did. Cal's doing it to Tallahassee this week. USC is flying into a time zone they don't often play in. So do you think at all that the travel, because this was the question we had last year when we learned about all these new conferences and realignment, how much does travel, you think, play into this for some of these games coming up?
Well, this one tonight that you mentioned, Stanford and Syracuse, at least Stanford isn't going there in, let's say, November, and there's snow on the ground, and they're just completely out of their element. So, weather is not going to be a factor, which I do think matters. I know these games are played, in the case of Syracuse, indoors inside the dome, but just the sort of atmospheric aspect of it and what you're used to and what you're not. I mean, these guys, they don't go in the cold out there in Stanford. They're in California, obviously. So I think that stuff does play into it a little bit, but because it's not a factor and now we're just talking about the mileage and, like you said, going cross country and dealing with all of that, I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal. Like they're still flying in pretty good situations. It's not the total lap of luxury like the professionals, but they're also not like hitching rides on the highway either and taking coach buses and getting off all stiff. So I think in general they'll be okay, but it's an interesting game. I just think ultimately one that Stanford's going to be overmatched. I'm on Syracuse to cover the 9.5 points. I do like the over in this game as well, sitting at 56.5, 57, depending on where you got it. If you already bet it or what's available to you right now, you can get both of those numbers. Certainly, if you're looking under, go with the higher one, betting 101. But I think both these defenses are pretty leaky. I think if I'm placing one bet on the game, it starts with the total, and then I go to Syracuse to cover. Syracuse ultimately is the better team. Stanford's just not very good. It beat, Cal Poly, an FCS school. It lost to TCU in its first game and one that ultimately was closer, yes. But still, this is a team that is just dealing with inferior competition. Syracuse, and the way that, the first-year head coach there, Fran Brown, is got these teams, this group playing. And, of course, Kyle McCord, who has been, looking like a lottery pick out of the transfer portal. He's come in. He's sitting top 10 in the country with 8 touchdown passes, 4 per game. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's, 4 TDs in each contest so far. This offense, with some pro caliber players around him, has been a little bit of a force to be reckoned with. So I just think ultimately you mix in the travel component as well and just matching up team versus team, strength versus strength. I think Syracuse is just going to be too much. I expect the Orange to overwhelm the Cardinal tonight.
Going to be fun to watch. There are going to be some points in that one. I agree with you here. I don't know if there's going to be points in the other game tonight, which pits. There's one of, 4 games this weekend where top 25 taking on top 25, and we got that one tonight in Lincoln, Nebraska, as Illinois comes to town. Illinois has dominated Nebraska as of over the last couple of seasons here. It's been very one-sided, but this feels different for Nebraska and Matt Rule. What do you think?
I agree. Maybe that's because Dylan Raiola, the QB there for Nebraska, is doing his best Patrick Mahomes impression every day, going out the same pregame rituals. He's jumping on the field the same way. He's got the same haircut. He wears the same number. He's trying to channel his inner Mahomes, and whatever gets it done in Lincoln, man, I support it. But yeah, again, I just think Nebraska is the better team. Clearly, it is reflected in the spread. We're looking at a big number, as you can see, 8.5, 9.5, in between, depending on where you got it. I got it at 8.5. I think those are still available to you. But this Illinois team, yes, these two teams are undefeated. I recognize that. But Luke Altmaier, while he's played mistake-free football, Nebraska's secondary is excellent. He is going to be pressured relentlessly during this one. I think whereas we were talking about points in Syracuse, Stanford, I think this game, points are going to be more at a premium. They're going to be a little harder to come by. So I like the under in this one, but I also do like Nebraska to cover.
So another very interesting game coming up, pitting top 25 versus top 25 this weekend, is going to take place in Norman, Oklahoma, as Tennessee is coming to town. How about it? Josh Heupel won a national championship for the Sooners in 2000. Oh, by the way, the defensive coordinator for that Bob Stoops team, yeah, that's your head coach for OU right now. So this should be an interesting one. The question is, first road game for Tennessee, how much do you trust that defense of theirs?
Immensely. This is my biggest bet of the college football weekend, at least as it stands right now. We'll see what happens, between now and the staggered kickoffs throughout the day. But I like Tennessee a lot. And again, I know we're dealing with a couple of unbeaten teams here, but Tennessee has won each of its games by at least 41 points. So you talk about the defense. How about the offense? Oklahoma has cruised past Temple. I'm looking at the schedule here, had to struggle against Houston, barely got by Tulane as well in some ways. I mean, it wasn't nearly as far apart as the final score would have indicated. They kind of pulled away late. And so I just think we're ultimately seeing on both sides of the ball a Tennessee team that is cruising right now. Who knows what will happen as the season moves along? But at the moment, the offense is locked in. The defense is locked in. Yeah, road team, as you mentioned. But I also just think in exponentially, again, both sides, the better team. And to get this inside of a touchdown, 6.5s are available to you right now in support of the Volunteers. I'm comfortable laying the number.
26-9, 20-7 the last couple of games. That doesn't spell an over for me. Don't go anywhere, though, Adam. We're going to talk some NFL when Game Time Decisions continues.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri joined by Adam Kaufman here for another segment as we get ready not only for some college football here this weekend. Let's not forget week 3 of the NFL season. And Adam, it's interesting games set up here in week 3. I was talking earlier. I don't want to say must win in week 3 of the season, but if you're Baltimore or Cincinnati, I don't know what else to say. You start 0-3 is that's just a mountain that you don't want to have to climb in order to be able to make the postseason. But you also don't want to have every name brand receiver, position player, offensive lineman that you have on the injured list, which is what we're going to get with the 49ers and the Rams as this list is read. You can build an all-star team with the names that are on this list of guys not available, including the latest now, George Kittle, not going to be available. We've seen the 49ers go from over a touchdown. I think this thing is now under a touchdown because of the Kittle news. It's Brandon Ayuk or bust, I guess. How did you approach this game?
So I do like the Niners to win this game and to cover in this game, but it's a little less pro San Francisco as it is maybe an indictment of Los Angeles. As you mentioned, Joe, I mean, the laundry list of all pros and just incredible talent that we have in this game, like a couple weeks out from the season, right? You start to gear up. You're looking ahead. Which week 3 game are I really pumped about? And the 4 o'clock slate Eastern, we got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. None of those guys are playing, Joe. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. So you're right. It's Brandon Ayuk. It's Jordan Mason, or it's Kyron Williams and Matt Stafford on the other side. I guess out of respect, I should mention Brock Purdy as well, but it's true. I mean, we don't have a who's who of talent. I just think ultimately, even still, this Niners team is just better. I mean, I've got a ticket on the Rams to make the playoffs. That I may as well tear that thing up and throw it away, because these guys are out for extended periods of time. I mean, I just don't see how they can possibly win this game, cover the number, even really keep it close against a Niners team that still has that defense, which is, again, the most important factor in this game. And, I think Mason can run all over them. He could be looking at another 100-yard day. Purdy, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. I mentioned Stafford is not 100%. The number, even though it's large, and we have seen literally every 6+ point favorite this year fall to the dog, at least in terms of against the spread. 8-0, the dogs are against the spread when they are at least 6-point underdogs. It's nuts to begin the year. So every time I feel like I'm reading a situation right, ultimately it seems like it goes the other way. So I guess take everything I say with a grain of salt. But yeah, I don't know how the Rams keep this thing close. I really don't. And just to support what you were saying before, I was, as people probably saw me looking around, what's he looking at, not paying attention to Joe. Not the case. I was trying to find a number because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. You were talking about the Ravens and the Bengals and what a must-win this situation is. How about this for those two 0-2 teams? Only about 10% of teams to start 0-2 historically make the playoffs. I mean, yeah, this is must win. And I realize the vast majority of those numbers factors 16-game seasons, not 17-game seasons. That's a recent change in the league. But even still, you can't start 0-3. You just can't and expect to be able to bounce back and go on a run.
I agree. I mean, I hate to say it, and I think they know that in those spots too. So should be a very interesting weekend. I'm still scratching my head a little bit about some of these lines. The Dolphins line move from the look ahead to where we are here, Adam, is over the top, man. Are you just on principle? Are you taking the Dolphins?
Yep. I am. Yeah. And you said it. I mean, 6 points from the look ahead to where we are now. You can get the Dolphins at +4.5, which is exactly what I did. I mean, obviously Tua Tagovailoa is a significantly better quarterback than Skylar Thompson. I mean, I don't think anybody would refute that, but at the same point, you still have Tyreek Hill, you still have Jalen Waddle, you don't have Raheem Mostert in all likelihood, but you do have Devon Achane. Like, there's a lot of talent on that Miami side. And while the Seahawks are talented as well, I don't generally make a big deal out of schedule spots, but, you know, they were just out east to play the Patriots and played an overtime game. Now they got to go home back out west. Now they're ramping up to go out east again for their next game against the Lions. It's not easy, man. It's a bad spot.
First class and all. It's still a tough spot there. Adam, appreciate it. We'll be back.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Friday as we get ready. Plenty of Major League Baseball still on tap here tonight. Loaded slate, a lot of games. Still have some juice here as teams are trying to solidify their postseason berth and, of course, positioning. One of those games that we have currently underway in Baltimore, and the Orioles have wasted zero time getting out in front of Detroit. We got a 3-0 game already here in the bottom of the second. Montero on the mound for the Tigers. Corbin Burns on the mound for the Orioles. The Orioles just not good. They've only won 3 of their last 11 games, and they find themselves trailing the Yankees in a big way here, and they are desperately trying to put any sort of momentum together as they head into postseason. Same situation with the Atlanta Braves, right? The Atlanta Braves were in the postseason, and now they're outside looking in because the Mets have overtaken them, and now they're trailing by a couple of games. And it doesn't help that the Marlins are already up at the end of the first inning, 3-0. 3-0 over Atlanta at Lone Depot Park there in Miami. A just horrific start for the Braves in a game in which they have to have. Why? Because the Mets are already out in front of the Phillies 2-1 at Citi Field. They're in the top of the second, and we've been saying how the Mets, 16-4 in their last 20 games. They have now gone from making tea time and cruise plans because they thought their season was over to now very much being a part of the postseason here in the Phillies. They, too, are just trying to solidify that number one seed in Major League Baseball in the National League, but they've got the Dodgers that are quickly on their tail here. Dodgers were not playing well. The Phillies were so good in the first half. They gave themselves such a cushion, but unfortunately, it's all starting to come back to them because after the All-Star break, boy, did the Phillies have been mediocre at best, which has given the Dodgers an opportunity to get healthy and be able to get guys like Mookie Betts back. And that lineup now really starting to mash, and they are playing much better baseball as they, too, get ready for the postseason. Game coming up top of the hour here, which I'm looking forward to, is the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. Colin Ray on the mound for Milwaukee. Zach Gallen going to be on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Lourdes Gurriel off the IL for the Diamondbacks, so they, too, getting a little bit healthier, and they are looking to mount another run to the postseason. Can you believe that? I mean, this time last year, we were laughing at the thought of the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're talking much like what we're talking about with the Mets as of late. The Diamondbacks were playing their best baseball at the end of the season, rode it right into a National League pennant, right into the World Series, and unfortunately fell a little bit short. But the Mets, same situation. The Diamondbacks have been playing some of their best baseball over the last month and a half. They did come back down to earth here over the last 3 weeks, but they were so good, it's kind of hard to even imagine the fact that we would have in any way, shape, or form thought that the Arizona Diamondbacks would not make the playoffs here because they were so terrible early on in the season. We were going, here's the World Series hangover. There's no way this team is going to be able to repeat. It was a fluke. Turns out, wasn't that much of a fluke here as they are sitting pretty, but they've got to get some momentum heading into these playoffs because the Mets are doing exactly what the Diamondbacks did a year ago. That game coming up at the top of the hour. Verlander back on the mound, by the way, for the Astros here tonight, taking on Tyler Anderson, who, if you guys have been following along, I quit betting against Tyler Anderson back in July because I kept waiting for the wheels to fall off, and they never fell off. And all they did was cost me money. So I have no intention of going against Tyler Anderson in this one. As far as I'm concerned, they would, without a doubt, probably beat Justin Verlander in Houston at home. Not worth the risk as far as I'm concerned. Giants and Royals, get ready for Michael Wacha on the mound, a guy that has been there and done this. He's taking on the Giants here tonight. The Royals got to keep scoring some runs at home. The bats have gone quiet a little bit over the last week, expecting them to come out against the rookie Black there for the Giants. Giants, again, what are they playing for? The answer is absolutely nothing. The Royals got to get the offense going early and often. I would have no doubt that Michael Wacha will give us a first five victory, and the Royals will be able to scrape a couple of runs across and cash that ticket. But the big story of the night, of course, is going to be some of these early games that we're keeping an eye on, and Dave Sharapan, I'm going to guess, is watching one of these games here that is currently underway. And just to catch you up, if you're just joining us, the Orioles already up 3-0. The Marlins over the Braves 3-0. And the Mets and Phillies might score a million runs in this game. It is 2-1, Mets over Phillies. And Dave, you got the Phillies in this one? No. I know. Oh. Yes.
That's the color of the night tonight. Orange, Syracuse, orange and blue for the Mets. I guess orange for the Orioles. Might be one of those orange nights, Joe. Just orange, 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 orange.
You're going orange. So does that mean that Illinois is part of that? Because I'm pretty sure the same Mets colors as Illinois' colors there. So are we looking at a upset in Lincoln, Nebraska?
I don't know if they win the game outright. I think it's close. I think it's close. Not sure Nebraska, I mean, it's a big step up. Expectations went up even more for Nebraska, right? In the situation after what they did to Colorado. So, not to say they can't, but I just think it's going to be a closer game. So, hopefully we see a lot of points. I think people are rooting for the over in that game. I don't have a position on it myself, but I hope it's entertaining. You know, that's because Stanford and Syracuse feels like a dead under, just one of those watches that somehow we wake up in the second half or whatever, and we're like, okay, someone actually has 21 points now, right? Like it just feels like it's going to be a snoozer.
Yep. And the late night game, too, there is one other game here tonight. Washington State taking on San Jose State. A awful spot for Washington State, having just come off that victory against their, the Apple Cup against Washington in a game that nobody saw them winning. And now they got to take on San Jose State. It's got flat spot written all over it. That, too, feels like too many points at 55. Like we're not going to get anywhere near that kind of spot here, and it wouldn't shock me if San Jose State can keep that one close there, Dave. But what are you doing on the diamond here tonight? I mean, the Mets and the Phillies, nobody's better than the Mets. I was just talking Arizona and the Brewers. Arizona has to keep winning games with Zach Allen on the mound, don't they? I mean, I don't think the Brewers got a lot to look forward to or to play to because they've already clinched the Central. I'll get your thoughts on all of these games that have any meaning tonight, Dave. We'll see exactly who you're looking at. We'll do it as Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. A very happy Friday to you, Joe Raineri, alongside the one and only Mr. Met, Dave Sherapan, in the house here. I'm just saying, listen, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, dude, it's usually a Met fan. City Field right now, still 2-1. Well, he does have that dude's got that is a melon for sure there. How about though, Dave? I could not be more impressed with the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani last night. I hope people understand the history what they're witnessing right now with this guy, because I said it with Tiger, I'll say it with Ohtani. It's a Halley's Comet, people. You're not going to see anything like this in our lifetime here, Dave. I just don't. This was just unbelievable what he did this year.
I can't even begin to tell you. Like, this will be that thing that we talk about, you and me, when we're, in those rocking chairs, hopefully within the same area, whether it's in Florida or you're sometimes visiting Vegas or whatever, and we're in the nursing home or we're playing at the old folks' home, we're playing cards, and we're going, you remember that year? Remember that year we were on TV talking about that Shohei Ohtani guy, and he went 50 and 50? And it's going to be like, you guys saw him play? No, we talked about him every night. We talked about his bets. We talked about watching him play. He didn't even pitch. He used to pitch. Oh, yeah. He just DH'd that year and stole bases, hit home runs, did everything else that you could possibly do. It's one of those things. Haley's Comet's great because I think you're right. I don't know how you even come close to doing this again and play a position. And the fact that, they're talking about letting him pitch again, I don't know. I mean, if he says he can pitch, he can pitch. I'm convinced he could walk on water at this point. I mean, I don't know what else. I'll throw it back to you with this. Do they have to win the World Series to validate like all of this? I mean, all of this, is it for naught if they get, a 2 seed and lose in the first round to the Mets?
Yep. Well, we all know that legacies are built in October. They're not built in 162-game regular season. So just the fact that we're going to get him in October, like we're actually going to see Ohtani play games in October, I think is phenomenal. And that is the first step. Listen, they've got him signed from now until the year 2800. So they've got some opportunities here. I don't know that he's got to win a World Series this year, but the fact that he's going to be in the postseason, and unlike his former teammate Mike Trout, who we never got to see this time of year, out of sight, out of mind, we are actually going to be talking a lot about Ohtani moving forward. I just want people to understand that, this is a once-in-a-generation kind of feat, what he's doing. The dude, after 200 years of Major League Baseball, and this guy just created his own club, Dave. And he did it by only DHing and never playing the field, which is just bonkers. My question to you, though, is does Ohtani do this if he was pitching this year? I think the answer is clearly no. There's no way he has these numbers this year if he is also pitching.
It's incredible to think about because up until this year, he did pitch. All right. And now you see what the result is not pitching. And I think you have to have serious discussions about not whether you pitch at all or not, period. But if you're going to pitch, let's limit your role. Let's limit you to,
I agree.
I don't know, pitching as a closer, being a class A, like, the Guardians have him come out of the bullpen when we need you to close out a game, and we'll do it that way. Otherwise, sit in the dugout. Don't worry about playing the outfield ever and just hit. Because it's a dream to have this guy in your lineup at the top of the lineup, Joe. Most of this damage has been done this year out of the leadoff spot. Nothing makes sense anymore. I'm convinced he could probably, I don't know, suit up for the Rams at one point. Just shoot over to SoFi.
Don't give them any ideas.
Right?
Let's not give the Dodgers any ideas. Yeah, let's please not give them any ideas at all there. All right, so let me ask you. You said you're wearing orange. We still have no score, by the way. Stanford, Syracuse, 0-0. That total has crashed down to 52.5. We got Illinois, Nebraska coming up. That's a top 25 matchup. There's another team wearing orange this weekend. That would be a top 25 team, also playing a top 25 team. I believe that team is Oklahoma State. They will be in Stillwater taking on Utah. You tell me here, Dave, where the look-ahead line, -3, -2.5, Oklahoma State, it gets steamed to Utah early in the week, right? Now they're laying 2.5 in Stillwater, only around Wednesday to get steamed back to Oklahoma State. And as you just saw, here we go again, back towards Utah here now. Dave, and nobody knows anything. So why are we getting such wild swings here with absolutely no knowledge of Cam Rising?
The buzz here was that he's going to play. Now, that's why it went back. So I heard from somebody today, he's going to play. You know, you could bet Utah now. Okay. But just because he's playing doesn't mean they're going to win. It gives them a better chance to win. Okay.
Right.
But it just never ends. When the games are pick 'em or close to, they play both sides, Joe. You know that.
Yeah, they do.
Taking +2, taking +2, or they're taking the money line on one side, plus, and just kind of using you as a bank and interest when you're the book. It stinks. I don't know who's going to win this game. I thought the orange team you were talking about was Tennessee. You said Oklahoma State, and I figured you were going to talk about Tennessee and Oklahoma because that's another team with orange.
That's quality, yes, unless you're colorblind, at which point they were only wearing blue. Yes, I believe that line, and I believe it's going to be absolutely Murder City is what's going to happen in Norman. I do think helicopters, Blackhawks are coming in. It's going to be a mauling. We'll have more when Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over/under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Time Decisions as we look to close out this edition. Appreciate you stopping by on this Friday. And we are getting ready. Week 4 of the college football season already underway. Still no score. Stanford and Syracuse in that one. Illinois, Nebraska, just a few moments away from kicking that one off against two top 25 teams doing battle in Lincoln. Dave Sharapan here in the house. He'll take over coming up in just a few with the legendary Scott Wetzel, Mr. Opposite Picks. They'll have you covered here for the next couple of hours, keeping an eye on those games. But, Dave, I got to ask you, you're in Vegas. All right. What is the buzz with all the money coming in on Carolina right now? Boy, oh boy, did you ever think Carolina would get that much love because Andy Dalton is under center? Did you see that one coming?
So week 1, the Carolina love and the money showed up. Didn't get there. Week 2, Carolina money, Carolina love showed up again. Didn't get there. Am I surprised? No. There's people, these guys are stubborn. The limit player guys, the rhombuses, the parallelograms, bad guys. I got a bunch of nicknames for them. They'll keep betting them until they're right, Joe. And they're I don't know if this is the week they're right. I feel better about taking them this week with Red Rifle in there, with Andy Dalton in there, only because I think he'll turn the ball over less. So he'll keep them in the game, excuse me. So, I don't know. It's the home opener. If you want to come out, I'll take you to the game. Apparently, seats are really not available. I thought seats might be available, but
there's
a little bit of buzz around town, Joe. The Raiders are, dare I say, going to make the playoffs. It's already started.
The Raiders are what? Raiders are
going to make the playoffs.
Playoffs? Yeah, no. Okay. See, now put the Brownies down. Dave, I was going to say, now that we're going, I'm looking at you. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you a University of Florida Packer here this week?
How are they? I realized 6 on the road.
Thank you very much. Nobody bets Florida at all, ever. You should not be betting them on the road as a favorite. Unless you don't like money. If you don't like money, then just, take a match and light it and burn it, and you'd get much more enjoyment than watching Florida here. All right, get out of here, Sharapan. You've got Scott Wetzel waiting, and he doesn't like when you're late. So we'll see you coming up here at the top of the hour, brother. Enjoy those games.
Go Mets.
Go Mets. Yeah, that's it. Go Mets here. Unbelievable. I don't know why they keep bringing him back. I keep asking him not to, but he still shows up here, which is kind of shocking here, in a different outfit every week. All right, so we've got college football touchdowns. Stanford right now up 7-0. If you were hoping to get Syracuse at a better number, now's your time here, as they are a 3.5 point favorite. Total is 57.5 in that one, as Stanford pretty much had their way, marched right on down the field and got that touchdown. Illinois and Nebraska getting ready. That's going to be your big game here tonight. 2 top 25 teams. This was just steamed up across the board here. I'm seeing 9.5s and even a 10 starting to pop up. So this was as low as 8 just about 30 minutes ago. But it looks like the Nebraska money starting to pour in late here. The total, that's also ticking down a little bit, 42. If you are going to lay that number and you're going to go on the total, if you think Nebraska wins this game, the market is telling you with a total of 42, don't expect a lot of offense from Illinois in this one. This could be a 21-3 kind of game, 24-7, that type of situation there. That's what the market is telling us here. With Nebraska at home, it's going to be hopping in Lincoln, mostly because there's really nothing else going on in Lincoln. And those of you that have been to Lincoln, Nebraska, know exactly what I am talking about here. Major League Baseball games here tonight underway. Again, keeping an eye on a few of these. We got a lot going on tonight across the board here. Braves still losing 3-0. Still 3-0 Orioles over the Tigers. The Mets still up 2-1 right now. The good news is We also heard Soto scratched from the Yankee lineup here tonight. Little last-minute scratch. Maybe he's got a scratch. I don't know. But he won't be playing against Oakland. Good for him. Nobody wants to play against the Oakland Athletics here. But when it comes to the games, the guys got you. Don't go anywhere. In-game live coming up next. Game Time Decisions. Enjoy your night. We'll see you again soon.